Brilliant. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another sunny day, and we're going to be doing some clay. I'm Olivia. I'm a queer artist from Liverpool. I've done ceramics for about 2 to 3 years. I've also been teaching for about 2 to 3 years as well, although this is my first time with virtual village hall, so really exciting. I have the comments open like always, so if you'd love to interact with me and chat with me while we make our clay pinch pots. So I wanted to show you an example. So this is my little friend over here, and this is what the clay will look like when it's fully dried. Nice and smooth, obviously not painted. Hi Irene, thank you for joining us today. So yeah, this is just a little example, but I thought for Pride Month, we'll do a gorgeous rainbow and then some hearts on the back. And then maybe on the 5th of July, I think I'm scheduled in to do another class and we can paint those pots or anything you've made. Hopefully it will be dry by then, because it should only take about 24 hours to 48 to dry. Although, because the weather is so gorgeous, honestly, it could dry a lot sooner. So let's begin. So I'll run through everything first. So hopefully you can see on my little screen, I have a couple of things already with me. So if you haven't got them now, I'll just give you a couple of minutes just to run and grab your stuff. So we need some water to dip your fingers in, or use the paintbrush in. I've got a little paintbrush for, again, water, and we're going to use the end to sculpt. So we're just going to use the end to kind of sculpt our pieces. I've got my clay, obviously. You can use any clay. This one is just the Daz stone clay, but you can use terracotta. You can use any other, it doesn't have to be Daz. It is air dry clay that we're using. So with this air dry, it's just decorative. So it's really great for kind of trinket dishes, or small pots for your keys, or for, little charms, just things that don't need food or water, just because they haven't been sealed, so they're not airtight. So if you do want a kind of airtight glossy finish, I recommend you can use some sort of glaze or resin. I don't normally do that. I normally either spray them with a little bit of hairspray to make them shine. Again, not food safe or watertight for that. And I also sometimes use PVA glue just to give it that little shine when it's all painted and finished. But we'll go over that on the 5th of July as well, when we paint our lovely pots. So I'll pop this guy out of the way. So again, I've got my water. I've got a tiny sponge just for kind of dabbing my clay, making it all smooth. You can use a dish sponge if you have it, just obviously don't use the rough side. I think this is just a little beauty blender anyway, so if you've got a beauty blender you're not using. And then I've just got some paper towel in the corner, just to make sure if I want to wipe my hands, if I want to type something in the comments, and I've got clay all over my fingers, definitely give your hands a little wipe first. And I also have a little plate just so nothing sticks to my table. If you've got kind of like a wood table, or just something that might stick a little bit, I recommend either a J-cloth or just a chopping board, just something that you can pop your clay down on. So I've got my nice clean surface, and I've got my Daz clay. So this is quite a big piece of clay. We're not going to use it all. I'd say we'll probably go for about a third of the clay. So I've just started my rip, but you should be able to rip it open. Let's see. It's a little bit tough, but grab some scissors if you can't. I'm just going to open this up. And hopefully the clay doesn't dry too quickly because, again, it is so warm today. Get that out of the way for now. So you can see already the clay is a lot darker in colour when we get it straight out of the bag, and it goes a lot paler in comparison when it dries. Get this guy out of the way. Oh, thank you, Pippa. So yeah, modelling clay is really great. Air dry is super affordable and kind of really easy to get into clay. And once you start to really enjoy it, and you start to think, oh, I want to know more, you can look into classes. There's a lot of like ceramic classes around as well, but this is a great way to kind of get into the clay world. So I'm going to grab about a third of my clay, give it a little twist. Should come off nice and easily because it is, again, just come out of the packet, which I love. We're going to seal off the rest of our clay. We'll come back to that later. So make sure you seal it really nice. Fold it over just so it doesn't dry out, because again, air dry clay. So air dry is great because it doesn't need a kiln. Again, just in the sun, doesn't even need an oven. So we've got our lovely ball of clay. Yours could be a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, depends on kind of what size you're going for. If you want to make a big pot. Hi, Catherine. If you want to make a big pot, obviously you're going to need a little bit more clay to start off with. To make a pot like this one, which is just a regular ceramic one, so not air dry clay, I think you need about double this size of clay, just because as you go up, you obviously are using a lot more clay. But for our lovely little guy here, we'll only need about this much, because if you remember, we're kind of gonna add a little hole in the middle. So enough gabbing, I will start the session. So we're gonna begin by just getting our clay into a nice round ball. Don't worry if you see kind of little cracks like this. We're just going to focus on getting that ball shape. And feel free, you can just kind of smush those cracks as you go. Kind of give it a little tap, give it a little roll around on the table. Just see what works best for you. I quite like just smoothing it in my hand. For reference, I'd say this is about the size of an orange or a large apple, but probably an orange. Let's go with an orange. And yeah, I'm just rolling it around, smoothing it down. Some people love the feel of clay in their hands, and some people really don't like it. So it just depends what you prefer. But I really love the feel. I think it's just like being a kid playing with clay dough. So we're gonna get rid of those cracks, give it a nice smooth down. It doesn't have to be super round, but I think this is quite a fun stage anyway. And depending on your clay, it might look a little bit different. Obviously, if you're using the terracotta, it'll be red. Some versions of clay are a lot darker, and just really depends. So let's give it. And you might be able to feel, because of the palm of your hand being warm, the clay is starting to slowly dry a little bit anyway. So that's why we've got our water on hand. But we don't want to go overboard on the water because if it gets too wet, it'd just be really hard to manage. So I've got a nice round ball of clay. Lovely and shiny in the sun. And now I'm going to show you why it is called a pinch pot. We're going to be Tom Plum, the one who sticks his finger into the plum. Tom Thumb stuck his thumb in a plum. So we're going to stick our thumb just over a little halfway into our pinch pot. So you can see just a little bit over halfway. You don't want to stick it right the way through, obviously, unless you want to make the donut. But we've got our little pot so far, just the beginning. And to start the pinch process, I'm going to stick my thumb back in. I'm going to grab my 3 fingers. You can grab 4 if you'd like. My 3 thick fingers. And I'm just going to slowly rotate and pinch. And you can see all those indents on my pot. I'm just going to go really slowly. Take my time. I'm not going to press too hard. Just little firm indentations. You can see all around, and as I rotate, it should start to smooth everything out, and my pot should also go a little bit bigger. You can pop it on a surface as well if you find it easier. I just like to rotate it in my hand, just because you can get a feel for the pot as well. So really slowly. Don't worry too much about the middle if it's looking a little bit cracked. Just keep going. We don't want to go too thin. We want about 1 centimeter all along. So mine still isn't big enough yet. I'm just going to keep pinching. And if you do see a little crack, so let's see here. We don't want a crack on the top just because it might turn into a large crack. So I'm just going to add a little bit of water, a little drop of water. Smooth that crack out. I'm using my finger. If you prefer to use a brush, that's absolutely fine as well. And just keep rotating. This is probably the longest process because it's good to take your time, get the shape that you like. You might want to start kind of pinching down the bottom and then working your way up to the top as well. Just as long as you're rotating it and making sure it's even on each side. And you can always give it a little pat on the bottom just to keep that flat bottom. Don't know about anyone else, but I'm sat directly in the heat and it's very warm. Hopefully some people are outside in their garden doing this class. I think that would be lovely. And if you can feel that it has a little bit of a heavy bottom, again, just give it a little tap. And you can start to kind of push your thumb in the middle and kind of tap the clay out to the sides. So you're kind of pushing down, tapping it out to the sides, and that will give you a little bit more clay to work with, and it will give you a little bit more of a wider base, which is what we want because we're aiming for around this size. So we want it a little bit bigger. A little bit bigger like that. So you can see what we're aiming for and what we have at the moment. But we're getting there. We're getting there. Thanks, Molly. Hope you're having a good morning. we'll give it a little pat down. Should almost feel like velvet at the moment, just with the consistency. Just very soft and very smooth, because I haven't used that much water. Just giving it a little pat down. But thank you everyone for joining. I really appreciate it. And make sure you've still got a nice kind of strong base, so that when it dries, the bottom's just not going to fall through. And I'm slowly, because it's getting a little bit bigger, it's getting a little bit more floppy now, because obviously as I'm turning it and moving it, it's getting wider. So if you want to pop it down now and give it a little bit of a squeeze just on the plate. Oh, brilliant. Hi Shaz, that's lovely. I know pottery is honestly such a brilliant craft. But hopefully joining along today will make you feel a little bit more like a summer break. I know I definitely feel like I'm on a bit of a summer holiday today because of this weather. I think I'm going to go sit in a park later. So just giving it everything a little bit of a smooth with my fingertips so far. And again, you can see very similar already, but I've just got a little curve of the lip here. So I'm just going to work on flattening that down. Kind of bringing that clay a bit up more, a bit straighter. And making sure each side is even, because you don't want one side a little bit thicker than the other. Oh, brilliant, Shaz. Whereabouts are you? Are you in the UK? Are you anywhere else? I mean, I'm guessing it's the UK because it has been raining here a lot. Oh, brilliant. No problem at all. So if you don't have an oven at home, that's fine, because we're using air dry clay today. Oh, in France. Oh, it's been raining in France too. Fair enough. Not just the UK then. So again, it's because it's air dry clay. I'll show you the brand. So I'm using just Daz Stoneware. It only takes about 24 hours to 48 hours to look like this. And then we're going to do a painting session next month on the 5th of July at 11 a.m. And we're going to go and paint our gorgeous pots as well. So there's no need for an oven on this one, which is really, really handy. So again, smoothing everything out. If your clay's going a little bit wrinkly, kind of on the sides or on the top, what I like to do, and this is the next step, so if you're not ready, don't worry, but I like to grab my sponge and dip it in the water, but then get rid of any of the excess water. Yes, absolutely, air dry clay is brilliant. So I got the clay off Amazon, but my local art shop as well also has that. But I think Amazon were doing a deal, and because obviously I do a lot of classes, I thought I'll grab some. But if you look up Dad's Stoneware stone clay. So yeah, I like to grab my sponge, give everything a little tap down, and then obviously using my finger to smooth it as well. You can kind of rub it along the surface and use your nail just to get those cracks out. And as long as you've got a thick-ish rim, again, about 1 centimetre to 2 centimetres, then your pot should be nice and stable. So I like to give it a nice little tap. I think because I'm in direct sunlight, my clay is drying out a little bit faster than what it normally would, but that's okay. It's good to see different examples. And just kind of, again, using my sponge. It's not drenched in water. We're just applying a nice sheen over the top and smoothing it around. Air dry clay is great as well, because if at any point you think, oh, I don't like this part, I don't like how it's looking, you can just smush it up into a ball and start again, and it's brilliant. But I don't recommend doing that now, because I'm sure all of your pots are lovely. Again, almost like you're doing your makeup, we're just kind of dabbing it on, brushing it on. And it's a little bit delicate right now, but does definitely look like a pot to me so far. And again, just gonna go back in with my finger, keep smoothing it out. I think this is the most addictive part, just kind of making sure everything looks perfect. And definitely grab some more water if you need some. And if you're not feeling like picking up the pot again, you can always rotate the plate or whatever you have it on, if that's a little bit easier for you. And I just want to kind of pop these walls up a little bit more, so I'm just going to go back in with my other step and pinch pot and rotate everything. You can see, like so. You can also, if you still have a lot of cracks, you can use the back of your paintbrush to kind of smooth it down a little bit more. Sometimes it's just good to have a wooden tool on hand. You might even have some kind of craft tool from previous sessions. Ooh, so garden ornament. I think it would be good for the summer. I think in winter, once the frost hits, I think yes, absolutely not food safe. So I would say because it's slightly porous, the water does get in, and then obviously if it's frosty or you don't want to be eating any of the clay. So I wouldn't recommend for the winter. Summer probably okay. The paint might get a little bit sun weathered, but I think that should be fine. You can always repaint it. Bed bath again, probably not the best, but decorations would be perfect. Plus, if you make it, oh, thank you, Shaz. If you make it and it does break, just a bit of glue, and you can fix it up again. So my pot's looking nice and shiny. Slightly a little bit cracked on one side, so I'm just going to go in, give it a smooth. Again, just my little sponge. Don't want to be using loads of water, otherwise it will go a lot more wobbly than it is at the moment. And then you can see nice and round. If anyone's making anything else, please let me know. I'd love to hear about your creations. When I teach classes live, I always love to have a little nose and see what everyone's made. Some people make lids for the pots as well, which is just a little disc on top, and then we attach a ball on top. So or a little circle, just anything to grab that lid. Some people do decide to make decorative mugs or decorative bowls, or even plant pots. I think as long as you put a few drainage holes in, and then you put a plastic pot inside to kind of avoid all of that excess water going onto the clay pot, I think that should be fine. So hopefully we have a nice shiny pot. It is going to be very delicate in this stage, just because again we've added the water, so the structure is a little bit more fragile. But I'm going to be showing you how to attach to our pot. So you don't have to do what I'm doing. If you want to add absolutely anything else to your pot, that is fine. So that you can see this guy has a little face. I'm going to be doing some hearts and a rainbow, obviously for our lovely Pride session. So I'm going to grab my dad's clay that I've just wrapped up, and just want a small ball. I'd say a tangerine size for reference. Ooh. I just dropped it on the floor. 1 second. Right. So might feel a little bit different, the fresh ball of clay. Make sure we're wrapping everything back up if we're not using it. For storing as well, if you haven't used all of the clay, which we probably won't today, I would seal it in an airtight container and maybe cling film it as well. And if you've got a spray bottle, maybe spray a little bit of water in there as well, just to lock that moisture in. So I've got my ball of clay. I'm going to rip off another small section and work with this today. So I think I shall start with the hearts just because it's a nice easy shape. So I might even make mine a little bit smaller depending on the size of your pot, but you can always, it's very easy, so you can always go back and make it again. So I'm just going to roll it out into a ball because I think that's a really nice way to start off anything, because you've got a familiar shape, you haven't got just a random kind of block. So again, it doesn't have to be super neat or anything. Let's see, try and move with the sun. Right, so we've got our ball. I'm just going to give it a little pat down in my palm, like so. And now I've got a disc. I'm going to make sure it's even all over, again, just by rotating that disc. Might look a little bit like a smushed baby bell. Like so. And then to do our heart, we're just going to pinch the bottom into a classic heart shape. And again, as you're pinching, it might try and spill over at the top. So we're going to press it down and pinch, press it down and pinch. So we've got our nice pointy edge, and it looks a little bit like a teardrop now, or a raindrop, or a balloon. And to get that kind of Cupid's bow on top for our heart, just gonna use my finger to do the opposite of what we were doing before, just kind of smush my finger in and kind of smush that clay down. I'll show you here again. Sorry, I can't describe it more better. I can't describe it as well, but we're just smushing it down. So that it does resemble a heart a little bit more. So we're pressing it down, and then with that excess, we're just gonna smush that into the clay, like so. And you can see we've got a lovely heart formed. Give it a little bit more shaping. Grab that sponge, give it a nice kind of cleaning or buffing, and you're just blending out those lines or those harsh cracks. So you can use your nail if it's quite a deep one, and then obviously just blend out using the sponge. Might use my little finger as well, just to make that point a little bit more prominent, using my nail. I think it's best to be able to use your hands and not rely on tools, because then you can do the clay anywhere and at any point. If you rely too much on the tools. So just squeeze that heart in a little bit, so that again makes more of a classic heart shape. And to attach, the best way I found is I'm just going to grab my paintbrush and pick the best side, the side that you like the most. That's going to be on the outside of the pot. And then once you have that, just flip it over to the side you don't like. And we're going to score our heart with the paintbrush. So scoring is just basically creating some sort of texture so that our pot and our heart stick together. So I'm adding this texture. You can use a pencil as well if you've got a pencil. I just use the back of my paintbrush. So you can see a lot of texture, very messy, you know, not presentable, but we're going to stick that onto the other side. And then I'm going to grab my pot. I'm going to pick a side, and I'm going to do that where I want my lovely heart, and I'm going to again just really add that texture in. You don't want to smash your pot up, obviously. Make sure it's nice and stable, and maybe pop it down while you're doing this. I'm just lifting it up for the live stream, but yeah, add that texture in. And what the two textured sides are going to do is they're going to act like a Velcro. So once we add our water, I'm going to paint some water on. So once we add our water to both sides, it will act almost like a Velcro to smush everything together. So I'm adding quite a bit of water here just because I really want it to get in and mold together. And you can give it a little painting over with your brush as well, because you want to make almost like a paste with it. And then if you make a paste, you know it's working. So you can see now, very wet, almost paste-like, because you can see it's coming off on my brush as well. The clay is coming off. So I'm happy with the amount that I've added. So I'm going to smush this right down onto my pot and give it a little squeeze. Just to make sure that it's all stuck together. So you can see now my big heart is just on top of the pot, and I'm giving it a little smush down. So it will get bigger as you pop it down, because you are kind of squeezing it back onto the pot. And a little bit of water. And then I'm going to grab my paintbrush and kind of smush that heart again down onto my pot. So hopefully you can see, just joining everything together. Because we have stuck it on nice and firm, but it's just good to have a little bit of extra security. And you can see those cracks. I'm just going to smooth them over with my brush, just the back end of my brush. And hopefully they will go. I think being in direct sunlight does not help, so maybe if you are in the sunlight, you might need to be in somewhere slightly cooler. I would also say don't leave your pot to dry in direct sunlight. Again, for the same reason that you'll probably get cracks in the top, and then the inside won't be dry enough. So maybe somewhere in a warm room, but not direct sunlight. And then we have our heart. It's quite a big one. If you want it a little bit smaller, you can just start off with a smaller bit of clay. I might make a smaller one to go on the side. And I'm just making those walls, making sure they stand up nice and upright. That. And so we're going to move on to our rainbow next. So again, I'm going to grab a piece of clay. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller than my heart. Let's make it a grape size, a large grape, and add a little bit of water to my hands because you can see they're drying out ever so slightly. Oh, thank you, Pippa. That's lovely of you to say. So I'm going to grab that ball of clay and just kind of mix it in my hands. My hands are a little bit wet now just to get the moisture back into the clay. And once I've got that ball shape that we like to start off with, I'm going to roll it ever so slightly into tube. And again, I want to make this quite even now. So I'm going to just kind of roll it out. And depending on how long you want your rainbow, so I could do a rainbow inside the pot as well, which would be really sweet. Or you could do it on the outside as well. Because I've got a big base and it's nice to show everyone inside, I might do the rainbow inside for now. But the exact same applies. So if you want to attach anything, you just need to do that kind of method of adding texture to both sides. Oh, brilliant. I would love to see the results, Pippa, if you want to post them on the virtual village when you end up doing it. That would be lovely. So I've got my kind of long sausage. I took a little bit off the edge. I don't know if you just saw, I just kind of pinched it off and then sealed that end back up. And that's just because I don't want it to go too long, because otherwise it won't fit in my pot. So got kind of my wiggly worm, and we're going to turn it into a gorgeous rainbow. So I'm going to pop it on my palm just to see how I want it to sit, and then I'm going to smush it down so that we've got that rainbow shape and it's nice and flat. And again, you might need to add some water here and start to smooth it down as well. But I'm just smushing it down as I'm moving it, making it a little bit wider, a little bit thinner, and still trying to keep that rainbow shape. You can put this on a surface as well, just because my my plate is a little bit textured and I don't want that texture in my rainbow. And try and make those edges a little bit squarer as well, just a little pinch. Keep them nice and square. So I've got a nice rainbow shape that I'm happy with. So I'm going to use my paintbrush to kind of, again, add that texture onto my pot. I'm just using the middle just because I have a big enough canvas that I think the rainbow would look really nice inside. And then when I put all my trinkets and my charms in there, if there's nothing in there, there's still a little bit of colour, still something nice to look at. So yeah, adding that texture, and then I'm going to flip my rainbow over to the other side, and add that texture in again. And I think just lots of little dots, lots of small marks on that back side. Again, just making sure that you keep the shape the way it is. Looks a little bit like a pair of teeth at the moment. And adding that, using that brush again, just brushing on, making that kind of paste that we made before. Going to do that with the bottom as well. So now super pasty, and then let's stick it down. So peel it very, very gently off whatever surface you're using, and we're just going to place it on top of our pot. Again, just mold it into a shape that you're happy with first before you stick it down, just because once it's stuck down it is a little bit trickier to remold it. So move it around, give it a little wiggle, do what you need to do. So I'm fairly happy with my design. You can see it's definitely going to be a rainbow once it's painted. So I'm going to give it a little smush down just with my finger, very lightly. And feel free to grab the sponge, give that a little bit of a smooth down. And our paintbrush, again, we're just kind of going around the sides, making sure everything's connected in, smooth down together. And because that might have made a little bit of an indent, again, just go back in, give everything a little buff over. Might go around my edges as well, just because again they are starting to dry up. If you're finding that the cracks almost look too big and you can't salvage them, you can always grab a new piece of clay as well, straight from the packet, just a little bit softer, and fold it over and blend that in with your fingers, and that will seal up the really big crack. And I just find this technique is really good towards the end, just if you've been working on a piece and the cracks just won't go away. Again, just grabbing some fresh clay, making it really, really thin in your hands, and then just patching it over and making sure it's still very well blended into the rest of the clay. Again, you can use your brush, the wooden end, just to smooth everything down. Yes, and I just love doing that for the big cracks that you think, oh well, it might dry with that cracking, and I don't want that. Brilliant. And give your the things you've stuck on, so your heart and your rainbow, a little wiggle, just to make sure that they are, again, super attached. And just spend a little bit of time patching everything up. And I've just seen that my battery is not charging. I think it's the heat. So I think that is a good time to slowly finish then. Hopefully my battery does not run out, because it is on charge, but I think the sun might have affected it in some way. But again, just patching everything up. And once you're happy with your creation, you don't have to lift it off where you've had it. But I'm just going to do that for show. But you should have a lovely heart on the outside and gorgeous little rainbow on the inside that we can paint next week, hopefully. Well, not next week, in July. Sorry, next month. That was my mistake. But I'm going to leave my pot in a corner of a room where it's not super sunny, and I can just forget about it until our next session. If you do see little cracks, just go over with your nail and smooth it down. And sometimes when you might start to see some cracks in the sun, but again, just see if you can grab it just before it gets to that stage. But I'm sure we can paint over any mistakes in the next session. And please send anything you've made today in, or once we've painted everything, we can all share the pictures together. But I hope everyone has enjoyed that session, and we will make some more things soon, hopefully. I want to say thanks to Virtual Village for having me on, and everyone that joined. And I will see you next month, everyone. And hopefully make sure you wash your hands. Very, very clay.